Hey everybody, how's it going? Gonna go through these levels real quick. As you can see here, we're starting with the 4446.4 on the bounce and 448.5 on the rejects. You'll see here that this was actually our top today, was that pre-market high. Let's go with the 5 minute here and let's go to SPY. So if you can see here on SPY that 448.5 was actually our exact top today, and we did have a really nice bounce at 446.4. Steve and I and everybody got in here at this level. We were able to get a nice quick scalp to these EMAs, but ultimately we had to go down a little bit further. I'm going to go to an hourly chart so you can kind of see where this level comes from, this 446.26, which is a level that I had on today. You can kind of see that we've got a little bit of our shelf here. You can see that this is the area where the chart was closing a lot. If you go back even further, you'll be able to see how it plays out as a shelf here as well, and that we're constantly seeing resistance here, and that it turns support, and that is what we got today, was support. So let me go back to the 5 minute here. You can see early signs of buyers, and the reason that I can say that you see early signs of buyers is that you've got this kind of falling volume, or this really kind of relatively low volume compared to the rest of the day. On the way down here, and then you see this large wick on really large volume, and then you've still got pretty good volume on this push up. It kind of looks like it might be forming a base here. And ultimately, that's exactly what it does. These wicks, when you've got high volume, can signify that buyers or sellers are present, depending on what you're looking at. Not buyers or sellers, but aggressive buyers. Not because obviously there's always buyers and sellers present, but aggressive buyers here. And you can see when we come back down here that there's really much less volume in it. And this in particular seems like there's a lot more going on here than the volume is letting on. And then you have even more volume here compared to the previous one, and it's a much smaller candle. Normally you would think that a wick like this on the top means that it's aggressive sellers that are present. And while this does normally mean that sellers are in control, when you see this at a bottom of a trend, it could mean that buyers are really starting to show more aggressive presence. And that's exactly what you see here. You get a little bit of an engulfing. They try to make new lows and they can't, try to make new lows and they can't, try to make new lows and they can't. So they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 5 minute candles. So you got 25 minutes of it just sitting here, and sellers unable to push it down any further. And that's exactly when buyers on increasing volume take it off of our level and go to the upside. And that is a really nice play. If you weren't able to get in here, you've got a beautiful little higher low right on top of the EMAs and and VWAP. Though I like this one a little bit better, this little push up and play here, just because I like the way that the candles look a little bit more. But ultimately, I mean, this isn't a bad play. Just right here on its own. This is an okay reject, I think, but I mean, you're seeing a lot of movement to the upside. The reason that I think that this could be okay is that you have a lot of volume here, yes, and a really big amount of movement, and it just really extends itself away from the EMAs really quickly. This isn't something that I would suggest just like taking reject wise like really fast. I would probably wait to see what happens with buyers and sellers here. If you look at this candle, this is where a lot of that volume is coming in, and you can see that it's about half the size, maybe a third of the size of the candle previous to it on a smaller time frame, with a lot of wick on the top. And then you've got another failure to go higher, another failure to go higher, and then finally you even get a little bit of a lower high. I think once we pass this area, this is where I took this on puts in my futures account on ES. I was looking at SPY here and decided to finally enter when we were breaking back below on good volume on the 5 minute instead of using a smaller time frame. And still a little bit risky. I mean, this could be a 3-bar play that moves to the upside, but ultimately we got a really good move down. I got out at VWAP and it did look like we might see a little bit of a bounce there at VWAP. And if you're going for what we often go for in this group, and you're looking at Fibonacci retracements from bottom to the top here, assuming that we're going to continue this uptrend, this wouldn't have been a bad spot to look. And you even do get a little bit of a nice little scalp back to the EMAs on the 50%, but ultimately it needs to break down, and then we get a really nice move back to the upside, which is best looked at on 15-minute time frame. This also was able to, this is another reason why I thought that this reject was kind of good, is looking at this 15-minute candle, the amount of volume on it, and the amount of wick off the top of it, and how far we are extended away from our moving averages. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one, though. Only one I'm not going to go over is Tesla, because Steve already has a video for that. Recap, we got over 100% really early in the day, bounced right off of the hourly 21 EMA, and it was beautiful. So I'm not going to go over Tesla, but I will take a look at Meta here. But first, let's go through QQQ. QQQ is looking for either a previous day high or the previous day low, down to like 373.3. And that's exactly where we bounced today. We didn't get up to previous day high, but you can see again this large amount of wick on a large amount of volume. You can see volumes kind of staying almost the same here. The lower volume bar in this sequence, though, is this one, and it's much larger, and the higher volume ones are here and here, and you can see that aggressive buyers are showing their support here, but ultimately this is where the majority of them step in. You see them step in here and here, and then you get a nice little extra hammer on top of that. I'd still say that this is risky looking just at the 15-minute. Looking at the 5-minute, though, you can see that sellers are really having a hard time continuing their aggression here to the downside. You do get a little bit of an engulfing here, and then a really nice like almost pin bar hammer here, or dragonfly doji, I guess is what we would call that. And from this point, you can kind of see that within our zone, we're starting to carve, here's our low and a little bit of our higher low, which is what you're going to see on the smaller time frames like the 1 minute. I wouldn't necessarily suggest just taking this right here just because of how aggressive we've come down, but really nice moves off of these two higher lows right here. You can see once we get out of the zone, we're starting to see a little bit more movement. Really like the amount of volume coming out of this. I think especially after this candle, you got to say that this is looking like a pretty decent move up to the upside, and we do get quite a bit of movement. It goes sideways for a little while there, but ultimately really nice move. And this was our next area to bounce, but ultimately it was at the end of the day, and don't know that that's very worth it. Meta, our call out on Meta was 304 to 305 with a 309 reject. We didn't quite get up to 309, but let's take a look at the 5-minute here. You can see once we're coming down here, again, you're seeing these large amounts of wicks, still pretty good volume, and that's good enough for me, seeing that sellers are really having a hard time. The only problem with it is that it's just you're seeing pretty good price action here. Volume is still relatively low on shorter time frames until this area here, but these candles are so large that it's hard to find an entry. Maybe after this one, but after such a large kill candle, I don't know. And I just don't know if the risk to reward's worth it. You've got VWAP as your price target versus downside. Honestly, it's still not a bad take. It's maybe 1 to 1, 2 to 1, so it's still not too bad, but you've got to enter pretty much right on the line, which is what I like to do, and have your stop set below here. And then the next one was Amazon. Amazon, we were looking for a hit off of the hourly 21 EMA here as well, and you've got that stop, you've got that hit right here. Take a look at the 5-minute. You'll see that again, just like Meta, we're seeing sellers are having a hard time continuing to push this down, and they do get good movement off of this. You get equally good movement right off of the EMA here. If we look at the lower time frames, it gives you a really nice entry candle. It's still a little bit risky just because you can see how large these candles are here. So it's being really volatile and just kind of going all over the place, especially after a large volume drop like this. Might be hard to go ahead and take that, but ultimately, I think after this candle, kind of hope that we can get a decent entry here. If you are entering here as it comes back below, then your risk is only from this 55 down to 43. So it's a little over 10 cents on the stock itself as risk. So let's say 20 cents. And you've got movement up to VWAP, which is where all of your indicators are, and then your second price target of high a day, which it gives you in the next 5-minute candle pretty much. So still not too bad. 141 was the next call out there, but it just kind of pretty much just breaks right through it. We do reclaim it pretty well. We hit the EMAs on low volume. It kind of looks like it might make its way back down, honestly. I don't love this. I don't love being like right on the EMAs, since that's where my price targets tend to be. But if you're comfortable enough taking one of these higher lows, then not too bad. You've got all of this movement up to VWAP, but I think that's pretty much it. I think I'd probably actually rather these lower highs here off of this move than previous, but it is just ultimately kind of a sideways ranging day. And that's pretty much it. That's all of our levels. And hope you guys made bag, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.